Today, our conversation is all about courage. Not the polished, fearless kind that we see in highlight reels, but the real, messy courage it takes to start something before you feel ready. How many dreams have died because someone was waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect version of themselves? The truth is, perfect doesn't exist. And the longer you wait, the more your dream fades. Many of us want the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect confidence before taking the first step. But the truth is, waiting for perfect often kills our dreams before they even have a chance to grow. In this episode, we're exploring what it takes to step out while you're still figuring things out, whether that's starting a podcast, starting a business, or landing your very first client. You'll hear real stories, honest lessons, and practical encouragement for choosing action over perfection. If you ever felt paralyzed by not being ready enough, this conversation will remind you that the first step doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be taken. This is Finding Harmony. Good things happen when we start before we're ready. Famous quote by Stephen Pressfield. What does starting before you're ready mean to you personally?
Honestly, when it comes to starting before you're ready, I think anything that I start before I feel 100% ready. I think that we live in a very perfection driven age. And anytime that you want to start a new process, be it something creative, be it something professional, there's definitely this huge temptation to edit yourself into oblivion. And then obviously it just becomes a holding pattern, I think, in your life. And so for me, most of the things that I have started, career changes, creative endeavors, even personal endeavors, I have gone ahead before I felt ready. Because the reality is you might be ready, you just don't feel ready.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about doing things that makes you ready.
I love that concept. The fact that you said that you may not feel ready, but you are ready. There have been so many instances in my life where I may have not feel like I'm ready, but the signs all point to go. Even from people like friends telling me, "Hey, you should do this," and you're kind of second guessing yourself. For me, I think what it means for me personally is defeating perfectionism. Me
Yes.
personally,
You.
I like to have things laid out, as planned as possible, and there's only so much planning you can do. And sometimes I do feel like perfectionism is disguise, it's fear in disguise.
Mhm.
We tend to use that concept of trying to get everything right because we have that fear of failing or the fear of looking crazy amongst our peers or strangers. And it's so interesting now, especially with social media and things just having to be publicized, that makes that heightens the level of fear in terms of putting you on, putting you out in the public or putting yourself in front of everybody to scrutinize or say, hey, congratulations, or whatever it may be.
Oh, yeah. I think that a lot of what people call preparation or getting ready is, like you said, is procrastination. It's a form of self protection because when you put yourself out there, when you put creative work, when you put your emotional work, when something is important to you and you decide to share it with the world,
Mhm.
um especially in this modern day, you you're going to face a lot of criticism, anything that you put out at this point in life. Like I mentioned on one of the previous episodes that the internet has turned the world into a junior high, but a junior high where people are mean for the
Mhm.
fun of it, right? Like
Mhm.
literally you could be like, I gave away free puppies to orphans. And people will be like, well, you should have given them free kittens because puppies suck. Like people are just mean for the fun of it now, it seems.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the keyboards have emboldened people because there are a lot of things that people wouldn't say to your face that they would say across a screen on the internet. And I think that that's one of those things that's traumatized us. Anytime that you put something out there, you want to make sure that it's beyond criticism. But the reality is that people will invent ways to criticize you, no matter how ready you
No
were,
matter
no
how.
matter how perfect what you did was. It's never going to be enough. It's never going to be perfect enough for everyone. And I think when you make peace with that, that gives you a little bit of freedom to say, hey, you know what? Some people are going to like this. Some people aren't going to like this. But this is what I've done. Here it is.
Yeah, I think for me, getting over perfectionism is, I think, what have been my thing. And sometimes I feel we use perfectionism as a disguise for, high standards and quality, when it's really prohibiting you from actually getting to the goal.
Oh, I mean, yes. In your particular case, as your wife and expert witness, I would say that that is definitely, I think it's very admirable the way that you approach things. I think it's really great that you try to be very precise. One of the things that I think sets you apart in business is your capacity to be very detail oriented. But I also think that tips over very often
Oh,
into
100%.
hyper preparation, constantly editing and editing. And I think too, like there's a point when what you're doing stops being what you wanted it to originally be by the
Right.
time that you tried to fix it and fix it and fix it. It's something else. So I definitely think that's something that you struggle with, and self-awareness.
I didn't think I was going to be put on blast, but that's the point of this podcast, because we are figuring life out in harmony right now. So, no, honestly, I definitely agree. And I feel like I've been a recovering perfectionist, to be honest. And honestly, my family, we are big on just getting things right, because we're in the service industry. We've been in that industry for a very long time. And a lot of our clients have high demands. They invest in events. So we particularly work in events and commercials. So these are things that only can happen once, and people invest their hard-earned money or their company's money, and we have to get it right on the first try and not the second try. You know what I mean? Because you don't have a second try. And I feel I have somewhat carried that standard in life, but that can't apply to everything. Events, in life you have multiple uh instances to try again. You know what I mean? Especially with you know with technology and the fact that we could put out a podcast and get better every week, or put out content and get better every day or every week. You can put on events and try again and things of that nature. So I don't think you can't take that into your everyday life. So that's what I had to understand, and I feel, especially with your help, I've been able to just overcome that disguise of excellence, and realize, oh, this is me trying to be perfect, or perfectionism. And it's like, that's not a thing. You have to try, you have to go.
Yeah, I think God knows why he puts people together, because I'm a get it done and you
First of
are
all, I'm gonna get it
a
done.
get it done right.
Yeah,
Whereas I'm like, let's just go. Like,
yeah.
all right, let's figure it out along the way. And I mean, like, experiences put me to that point. And I also think I'm kind of impatient in a good way. So I'm like, let's just do it. Let's just see what happens. And
Mhm.
then you're the let's fine tune it. Let's get it right. And I think when you put those things together, you have for a very successful experience.
I feel like I'm a run it. I'm a run it type of guy. You don't think I'm a run it type of guy?
You're a run it after we have 5 spreadsheets, 10 meetings, and 78 YouTube tutorials.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, here's my thing. I do believe that if you don't plan, you plan to fail. So I do go into things wisely, but when things start to tip over is when it's been how long, and
Yeah.
you haven't pressed start and you haven't gone yet.
Yeah.
For example, this podcast.
Yeah.
This podcast has been a conversation in my house for I don't know how long.
Before we got married.
Right. And to be honest, I still don't feel like we're ready, but we're recording, you know what I mean? And I'm so happy that I did, because after the first couple episodes, the response that we've been getting, and just people literally calling us to say, hey, this podcast has done wonders for me. I'm thankful for it. It's been amazing. And for me, I'm in the season, I think for me, what tipped me over is I generally feel like God is like, this is go season. Like, What do you say? Monopoly? Don't collect what it is. Don't
Do
collect.
not pass
Don't
go.
right or whatever it is. I feel in this season God is telling me like go. Like I'm telling you, like there were many times I would ask either mentors or friends, hey, what do you think and things like that. No, go. Like he's literally don't ask anybody for advice. I need you to go. Me and you, we on this road right now. And honestly, I don't think we'd be sitting in this room if I didn't wasn't obedient. We wouldn't be recording this podcast if I wasn't obedient. You know what I mean? So a lot of things are happening right now. This is not the perfect time. We just had a kid, you know what I mean, the business and things of that nature. I'm dealing with family issues and in terms of health and stuff like that. Like this could not actually probably be one of the worst times to start a podcast, but we're here and we're starting before we're ready. And honestly, it feels good sitting here. I am tired. I am tired. You hear my voice? I'm tired right now, but I'm having like I feel fulfilled in this moment talking to you with the crew and behind the cameras and knowing that this is going to help somebody, you know.
I couldn't agree more. And I think we did switch roles for this particular launch. Obviously, I was behind you for a long time to get this started and get it going. And then I had a baby. And then it
Yep.
was like, no, I don't
Things
have time for
change.
anything. I don't have time for anything besides, a little bit of work, survival, and my baby. But I'm glad that you were able to push this through because I think it is a good moment, whether or not it feels like that. This is a good moment for these conversations.
So I wrote down something here. I do feel that okay, let's address the problem. Obviously, like I mentioned, perfection mask as, failure or fear of judgment.
Mhm.
That's one thing already. And then the reality that these excuses are just dressed up in a way to help you procrastinate even more. People wait for money, more skills, more confidence, perfect timing, and just understanding that that's just never going to happen. So once we understand the problem, understanding like you don't need more resources, you don't need more skills, you don't need more confidence, these things are actually going to happen in the doing.
Mhm.
A lot of times we want to wait for, like, even in my camera world, a lot of people ask me, what camera are you shooting on and things of that nature. Before I could get to those cameras that we shooting on, I was shooting on smaller cameras or less affordable cameras and trying to figure out, okay, how do I make this camera look like that camera as close as possible? You know what I mean? And through those experiments, I understand, oh, it's not the camera. It's multiple different things that allows for that image to get, to make it look the way it looks. But that's for all my camera nerds out there. If they understand what I mean. But at the end of the day, you have to understand you don't have to be ready. You have to be willing. And those are the differences that separate people who actually make things happen versus people who are in their room pondering, scrolling, and looking at you doing it. Literally, you don't have to be ready, you just have to be willing. And an important scripture that I personally found is Ecclesiastes 11:4, right? And when I read this really put things into perspective for me. Ecclesiastes 11:4. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the cloud will not reap. Just to give a bit of context, in ancient times, farmers didn't obviously have the technology that we have. So they couldn't predict the weather. They couldn't tell you when the rain is coming. They couldn't tell you when dry seasons were coming. They just had to literally plant. And if they waited for perfect conditions, they will not sow when it was time to sow. So that concept for me, when I think about just my life and my apply, if I had waited for the perfect condition for this podcast to, launch or different things of that nature, the person at the receiving end could not get the messages that we, are sharing on this podcast. Just understanding that there is no perfect condition, you know what I mean? It's just really planting. And then from that point, you understand, okay, maybe at this point in time, because of my last experience, I know, oh, the weather's a little moist. I think it's best to plant our berries during this time. You know what I mean? Oh, it's a little dry. Okay, don't plant right now. And then from that, figuring it out from that process, okay, these are usually the best conditions because of my experience, because I've been planting and I've been sowing and I've been reaping. I now have the experience to know, okay, this is when it's time to, act.
Oh, yeah. I think something that we take for granted is most of the learning is in the doing. When it comes to, if you think about music lessons, right? There was the theory part where somebody would take you through a book or they would show you the notes. But then there was always the practical part. You don't learn to play piano without a piano. You don't learn how to play guitar without a guitar. And you still have to practice. Somebody can tell you everything. You can watch all the YouTube tutorials you want to do, but until you do certain things, there's no growth and there is no excellence. And I think the reality is that in life, most of the learning is in the doing. I'm looking at this book by Malcolm Gladwell. He has another book called Outliers.
Yep.
And he talks about how people become experts. And basically, he was like, mastery at any subject requires about 10,000 hours of practice. But it's like, you're not going to get to 10,000 hours of practice if you are like, oh, I have to learn how to do it first before I can do it. And I think that's everything in life, you know. You wouldn't be good at what you're doing in terms of Sky Sales unless you put yourself out there. And you couldn't just practice for 5 years and then be like, I'm going to take on clients. You had to expose yourself. You had to raise the stakes, have people pay you and feel the need to deliver,
Yep.
be in uncomfortable positions. Because I think we want to become masters at things, but we don't want to be exposed. We don't want to risk failure, but you can't. The stakes have to be high. The way that you're going to perform if somebody's paying you versus if they're not paying you is completely different. And so I think so much of our procrastination is really just fear, but there's no winning until you expose yourself to the possibility of losing and, you know, raise the stakes.
Yeah. So there's consequences to procrastination, right? I have this quote right here. It says, procrastination is the graveyard where dreams go to die, not with a bang, but with silence and delay. And we don't understand that the more that we delay in procrastination, the more we kill our own dreams and our own desires, because that time from thought to action is so important. And the more time that you delay, someone else will act. That's the thing. How many times have we ever said, oh, I thought about that idea, but somebody else already acted on it? It was because, hey, they decreased that time between thought and action. And that's what that's what gets you in the game. That's what sets you apart. That's what gets you to be called the innovator or, the trendsetter or whatever it may be. And you get to actually actualize your dream, not even worrying about what other people, will call you, whatever, but it just decreases that time from you actually seeing the vision that was in your head come to life,
Absolutely. One of the quotes that I like, and it's kind of on the edge there as a Christian, but it goes, fortune rewards the bold. The people who are bold enough and brave enough to try things get rewarded with more opportunities. One of the things that I regret about my younger days is not being more brave, because when I put myself out there, when I expose myself to risk, when I expose myself to failure, all of those experiences made me a better person. They made me a stronger creative. They made me a more vulnerable human being, but also living a much fuller life, exposing myself to friendships. All of those things have made my life better. And so even though on the other side, there may have been disappointments, there may have been embarrassments, there may have been struggles, it's nothing compared to the way that I grew. Actually, one quote that I really like, it is from a random, but on the song The Matrimony by Wale, there's an intro with Jerry Seinfeld, which I don't know how that happened, but he's basically asking him, Jerry Seinfeld compares getting married to, or first you get engaged and it's like you're going up the hill of the roller coaster, and then you get married and that's like the first drop because you're screaming. And so Wale says, so even if you make plans, you're never really ready for marriage. And Jerry Seinfeld says, of course not. It's growth. You can't be ready for it because you're going to have to be a new person. You're going to have a new life. And I think we all have a tendency to want to feel ready for things that we have to grow into. And the only way that you grow into it is becoming that thing, And when I think about it, I wasn't 100% ready to be a mother. I knew that I wanted to be a mom, but it wasn't necessarily the perfect timing for me. But I realized, the perfect timing in my emotions versus the perfect timing in terms of my biological clock, they had to negotiate with each other. And I remember I was looking through my journal actually the other day, and it was about 6 weeks into my pregnancy, and I was still like, did I make the right decision? Am I really ready? And then now it's like I have grown into it. You know, there
Mhm.
was so much of this experience that I could not have prepared for. You can read the books, you can watch the YouTube tutorials, but when you have a small child who's looking up at you and depending on you for life, and you're trying not to kill them with your inexperience or whatever, you realize there was nothing you could have done to
Nothing.
really prepare for this moment, you
Mhm.
know? You could take the CPR classes and the sleep training books and all that stuff, but nothing prepares you for it. You have to be in it, and then you grow into it. And I think we all need to make peace with that, because I feel like we like, especially in modern society, we like the illusion of control. And we like to think, if I just read more books, and if I just listen to more podcasts, and if I just get enough information, this difficult thing won't be difficult for me. And
Mhm.
it's like, that's not how it works.
All
You have
right.
to do the hard thing, then you get good at the hard thing, and then you're a master.
Period. Let's talk about the other consequence of delaying: regret.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times we don't understand the weight of regret that is carrying through. For instance, honestly, I didn't even realize the emotional toll that not doing my podcast, or even like when I'm vlogging and things of that nature, that has on me. For some reason, I have a different level of energy and fulfillment when I'm here doing, this stuff, because I know this is what I'm here on. At least I have a strong feeling this is what I've been put on earth to do. And when I'm doing my client work, that's one set of energy, that I have. But when I'm doing music, when I'm vlogging, when I'm doing a podcast, it's like a whole nother level of, fulfillment. I know one of the main things I know at the end of the day when I leave this earth is, did I feel like I did what I needed to do whilst I was here? Did I affect people's lives? Was I a good person? Did I actually achieve the dreams that I wanted to do? Because since I was a child, I never dreamt small. Like everything that I've been exposed to, and from a parent's perspective, but just from, or even from friends and the people that I've associated myself with, it was always big dreams. So I don't want to ever, be at an older age and just wishing, man, if I had just done that, so if I had just asked Davrielle out, you know what I mean? Things of that nature. So regret is something that you do not want to be, living with, and we don't understand how much that just stays in the back of your mind. That idea that you have, that every time you close your eyes or wake up in the morning that you have, that is going to remain there. That's never going away until you action it, or at least try. That wonder of, what if, that is never going to go away, and you have to actually see it through. And it may suck, you may fail, but at least you have an answer, or at least a redirection to where you're supposed to go, or where you need to go, you know.
I will take an oh well over a what if any day of the week,
Mm.
because an oh well, I put myself out there, I tried, I screwed it up, I failed.
Oh
Oh
well.
well. Versus a what if, like the OL ends, right? Like, okay,
Mm.
we have a week or two of embarrassment. Like, we have an epic fail. Okay. And then everybody forgets about it after a while, and you move on with your life, or you take the lessons that you learned. But a what if doesn't have
It
an
doesn't. It
expiration date.
doesn't go
That can
away.
just torment you forever. It's literally living in the back of your mind rent free. And one thing that I thought about while you were talking was the fact that the Bible talks about the parable of the talents, right? And we really take this one for granted. There's in that story, basically the master, presumably Jesus, is asking at the end of life, what did you do with the things that I gave you? And you have the first two people. One was like, you gave me 5, I brought you back 10. The other one was like, you gave me 2, I brought you back 5. Or, I have the numbers wrong. But ultimately, you had the person with the
But
one
one.
talent who was like, I only had this one, and I know that you're a harsh master, and I didn't want to lose it, so I didn't spend it. So here is the one thing that you gave me unused. And the master is like, you wicked and unfaithful servant.
Mm.
And essentially it was like, what I imagine is, you're going to hell, low
Mm.
key.
Mm.
And I think people have to take that into consideration. If God put gifts inside of you and you say, oh, let's say you're a singer and you're like, I don't want to sing because I might end up in a secular world and I might do whatever. And it's like, if that was really what God called you to do and you didn't do it because you were afraid something bad might happen, there's a possibility that you are being wicked and unfaithful. Or you know what I mean? If God puts something on your heart and is asking you to do it, and you say no because I'm scared of X, Y, and Z, you're playing a dangerous game.
Very dangerous game. You're choosing fear over God's, God's word, and it's actually a sin. I actually have it written here, James 4:17. If anyone knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is a sin. Point blank, period. And so you just think about the weight of that. It's just so crazy to me. The fact that me not actually going after my dreams is actually a sin. You know what I mean? And something that God, does not like. That's or not honoring God, and that blows my mind.
Mhm. Even if I'm looking at this watch that I was sure to wear because my husband bought me this watch while we were dating, and it became a point of contention in our relationship that you did not see me wear it enough. So
First
you're
of all,
like, I'm not gonna buy you more things if you don't wear the
well, I
gifts
don't say
that
I'm
I
gonna buy you
bought
more things.
you.
Let me
Or
just clarify.
come on
I'm
now.
not buying you more tech things. See, the thing is, right? I am a techie guy. I am gonna buy an Apple Watch, update my computer, update my iPhone. That's just me. I like to do that. When I bought her first Apple Watch, she was like, "Oh my god, I love it! It was so pretty. Thank you so much." I thought I had good bounty points. All right, woo. 2 days later, the Apple Watch that I bought for her, don't see it. A month later, the Apple
No,
Watch.
I was
It
wearing
was
it by a
it
month.
was at least a month until I approached her. I'm like, I haven't seen you wearing the gift.
I
And
think
the funny thing is, I got her the gift because she liked my Apple Watch. And I was like, this will be a cool gift. So
I think
that's
I had ordered a special strap to wear with it. But long story short, but just think about how you felt, right?
right, right, right.
And it's that same
I
feeling
gave her
I
that
feel like with
gift
God.
and
Like
just,
I gave you a
wow.
gift. You're not doing anything with this gift. Why would I give you another one? And I think in the same way in life, we pray, oh God, I want this. Oh God, I want that. And it's like, I already gave you something. You've done nothing with it. Why would I give you something else?
And the crazy part is that is a material thing.
Mm-hmm.
you know the gift that he's given you is tied to your purpose and your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine how disappointed he is, because he's like, man, I see you struggling.
Yeah.
I see you confused, but I'm pointing you, I'm showing you, I'm putting people in your life to say, hey, you're good at this, try this. But then again, you don't believe in me. You don't believe that if you seek me first, everything that you're looking for and you desire, I could provide for you. And I just could imagine as a parent, even from sitting from a parent perspective, I give our daughter the best education or whatever it may be, and she turned out and be like, I don't want to do this. So
Right. I just want to
I
play
just
video
want
games
to
all
all day.
day.
Now you play video games, you making money. Don't get me wrong. Right? See, I'm trying to change that narrative, but in the sense of you just wasting time and just wasting your potential, that would hurt as a parent. So just imagine God's, perspective of like, hey, I gave you this. If you just want to, actually do it, can you imagine how greater your life will be right now if you walk in that, you know?
I think the nagging feeling that you should be doing something is actually a gift because it's that thing that's going to push you, it's going to irritate you until you move, unless you continue to ignore it and then it can irritate you until it goes away. And like you said, that's how you lose your dreams.
The deepest cost is realizing that you traded away your peace of action for inaction or for the stress of inaction. You know what I mean? There's peace with action. Maybe it seems, troublesome at first and scary at first, but once you do it, you actually get a peace because you got resolution. You figured things out. You got a step closer to whether this is for you or this is not for you. But the stress of inaction, that lasts forever. And you don't want that. You don't want that sitting in the back of your mind. So, that business you want to start, that job opportunity that you want to take, that person you want to ask out, you know what I mean? Like, take a step, take a bold action. At least you'll know hey, okay, I'm not ready for this right now, or hey, I don't actually like this job, or hey, you know what, this person isn't for me. You know what I mean? At least you got some answers. Or on the flip side, that person was for you.
Right.
That job was for you. That business was for you.
I think when it comes to regrets, I feel like a lot of people have them, particularly when it comes to relationships, actually. And you have to always ask yourself, what do I have to lose? You've been pining away over this girl at your office for 2 years, and she doesn't even know your name. What do you have to lose? If you walk up to her and you say, I'd like to get to know you better. I think you're really pretty. I'd like to take you on a date. Worst case scenario, she says no. Okay, that's much better than continuing
First
to
of
wait.
all,
At least she could set you free.
it's
At least you could move
all
on with
male
your life.
egos are a little different. I understand it. Coming from a woman, that sounds, oh, the least you can say is enough. Yes. That is a lot. You know what I mean? Our pride is a lot of us as a men. But you know what I realize within that though? You realize the people that you've dated didn't work out or moved on, a person that told you no, you genuinely never talk to them or interact with them ever again.
Yeah, you move on with
You
your
move on
life.
with your life. Like, I think about respectfully people that I've dated in the past or, et cetera. Like, I don't interact with them at all. Like, we don't even cross paths. And it's just like, take that opportunity, ask that person out. It may sting, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you're most likely not going to be interacting with them ever again in most cases.
Right. My thing is, I'm not saying to shoot at anything, but I am
Hey,
saying,
shoot is shoot.
right, if you want to win, if you want the shot to go in, you have to take it. And when it comes to dating in particular, I've heard people say so many things, like even girls. Like there was a point in my life when I had a mentor who was like, well, why don't you talk to this guy that you were interested in? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a Christian girl and I don't want to be out of position. I'm supposed to be found. And she was like, no one was asking you to propose to him. But if you think he's attractive and he's a nice guy, why don't you introduce yourself? Why don't you say, hey, I work at such and such a place. Nice to meet you. I'm interested in X, Y, and Z that you're doing. And I think that we are so proud. And I think that we are so terrified of rejection in that way. But it's like the exposure is very minimal. So I have, in a lot of cases, really, if we run it back all the way to the top, of the way that we got together, if your version of the story begins with me at a ball asking you to save me a dance, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't say, hey Drew, I want to go out with you, I want to be
You
with
actually
you.
said, hey, Big
I
Daddy.
did not say, hey Big Daddy.
She said,
That
hey,
is a
Big
flat
Daddy,
lie. That is
would you like
a
to dance?
complete
We're going to
and
have an episode
utter
about that. We're going to address that.
fabrication. That is the
Hey, Big
Drew's
Daddy.
imagination cut of the story.
I was
That's
like,
what
pastor's daughter.
that's what he wrote in his diary afterwards. That's not what really happened. But I'm saying, right?
Mhm.
You were like, for at least where this started with you, I was at a ball. I'm like, I live different, so I can't just be dancing with anybody. I know Drew. Drew's cool. Drew's a good guy or whatever. But I'm saying that was a move that I made. It wasn't like the super calculated move, but here I am. Here we are,
Right.
married with a business and a baby. Who knows what would have happened if I didn't say something? And I think that people, what are you more afraid of, right?
Mhm.
Because I have friends who are like, oh, I'm not putting myself out there. I'm not, because these guys might not like me. And it's like, are you more afraid of what if for the next 30 years because you never made a move? Or are you afraid of being embarrassed for 2 weeks?
I think we are in the most perfect time for failure because all of us have goldfish memories at this point. There are many things that was on the headlines last week that we do not care about because we're so self-indulged in our own, battles and things of that nature. We don't really care for anybody else's, mistakes or mess ups or whatever. You know what I mean? We are in the perfect time. If you think about it, nobody really talking. I mean, don't bring up Diddy again. I was going to say, nobody really talking about, there's some things that people are talking about, but nobody's really talking about some of the biggest headlines that happened 2 months ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's what's happening today. So this is really the best time for you to start whatever project you want to start. And if it works, it works. If it fails, it fails. This is my third attempt on my podcast. The first one was public, but nobody's really checking for the
Right.
first one
Nobody
right now.
cares.
They're on finding
Respectfully.
harmony. Dang. Yeah.
I mean, nobody is sitting at home
No,
like,
that's the
shame on Drew. He gave up on the podcast.
no, the truth is, I'm joking, but the truth is nobody cares. Nobody generally cares. But if you could offer value, if the things that you're doing could offer value to people's life, people will recognize that and people would share that on for the most part. You can always have haters, but for the most part, that's going to happen.
Failure is one of the greatest gifts I feel like that I've experienced in my life because I spent so much of my younger journey being afraid of failure. And then when I started to find myself in the moments when failure really happened, it was like, it was awful. And then it was kind of bad. And then it really wasn't so bad. And then it was fine, And I
It's like a
realized,
scab.
guess what? Right. It's like, okay, I fell down
I
and
got
then I
cut.
got up.
Mm-hmm.
And then within a couple of weeks, the scars were healed. And I realized, and those failing experiences, they were painful, but they were very, you know, instructing or constructive experiences where I learned so much very quickly. And I learned about how to not do things. And because I failed and I hit the ground and I hit it hard, by the time I got up, it was like, oh, well, that didn't kill me. And I'll be okay, And I think it freed me from the actual failure, freed me from the fear of failure because I realized even if I failed, it wouldn't be so bad.
So let's wrap this up. The solution to this, right? So I have a famous quote by the great Muhammad Ali. He says that even the greatest was once a beginner. Don't be afraid to take that first step. How do we reframe readiness, right? For me, like I mentioned before, I feel like you don't have to be ready, you have to be willing. You know what I mean? Understanding, okay, there's a goal, there's steps to this goal. If I just take the first step, right? Understanding, practical steps. So for me, I wrote down a couple of practical steps that I feel that can help people, get to their goal and increase that space between thought and action. So practical steps. Number one, name your perfect excuse. What are you waiting on? Literally write that down. Write down that perfect excuse. Look at that excuse. Think about, is this excuse really and truly valid? There's certain excuses that, make sense, health or certain predicaments and things of that nature. But write down your perfect excuse that's stopping you from doing what you're doing and really judge that based on not fair or judgment of others, but based that on God's word. Okay. That's step one. Step two, strength to start. Like I talk about, begin with a small and then double the action daily. Okay. You're not going to climb the mountain on day one. That's just not going to happen. But you take that first step and then you see how much you can take. Okay, now double that step again. And then more and more you continue to, that process, you get closer and closer to your goal. And then redefine failure. For me, especially now, I've been through a lot of different failures in my life. I understand that failure is just data. Failure is data that you can now, okay, this allows me to realize, oh, this isn't for me, or this isn't getting me closer to my dream. Now I got to pivot. So I use failure now as data. Okay. Step four, anchor in God's word. You know what I mean? Do not fear, for I am with you. I will uphold you. Isaiah 41:10. Those are God's words. As I mentioned in podcasts before, what made me just so much more confident in God's word is the fact that he mentions that he holds himself accountable to his word. He's never going to leave or forsake you. These are his promises. So if you abide by these principles, you will get these things. And once again, not as if God is a genie, but more so the desires of your heart when you're in line with him and his will and what he has for you in your life. Okay, so anchor yourself in God's word. Like I said, do not, or like he said rather, do not fear, for I am with you. I will uphold you. And then number five, find accountability. Share your perfect start with one supportive person at least. And be careful who you do this with too, because sometimes people low-key haters. You know what I mean? So share that with someone who you generally feel that you can trust and who actually believes in you, who actually is fanning your flame on a daily basis. And that usually is that best friend that's always nudging you, girl, you could do this. Or you could do this. Why you just don't? You know what I mean? I promise you that we all have that encourager in our life. Well, at least for the most part. I don't want to speak
We
for
ought to,
everybody,
yeah.
but we ought to, you know what I mean? So there's people who genuinely believe in you and fan your flame. For me, that's my wife. I'm fortunate to have somebody in my life who I genuinely can trust with no hesitation, you know what I mean? So find that person that you can have that accountability with towards your dream. So I think for me, those are 5 practical steps that you can have. So number 1, name your perfect excuse. What are you waiting on? Number 2, shrink the start. Begin with small and double the action daily. Redefine failure. For me, failure equals data. It just allows me to point in the best direction possible after I've learned the results. It's and I just want to make that clear. Failure is data and not identity. Okay, you're not a failure. And then number 4, anchor in God's word. For me, Isaiah 41:10, do not fear, for I am with you. I will uphold you. Okay. And number 5, find accountability. Find that person that you want to share your imperfect start with, and they're okay with where you are right now. And they're going to find your flame and say, hey, remember when you said you would do this? Let's do this. You got you. You know what I mean? And for me, those 5 practical steps I've used in my past, and it's yielded results that I'm walking in today. And I just want to share that with you guys on the podcast. Anything you want to add on that, Dav?
I think when it comes to failure or not even failure, when it comes to putting yourself out there, taking risks, starting something new, I think viewing things through the lens of this is a gift that God has given me. I owe it to myself and I owe it to him to try to use this gift as best as I can. I think that's freeing because sometimes we feel like, who do I think I am to want to start a podcast? Am I really that smart? Do I have that much to share with the world? Or who do I think I am to be a painter? I only have these skills. But I think when you take it out, because it can seem vain if you don't have a sense of purpose behind it.
Mhm.
And so I think remembering, hey, it's not just that I want to do this so that everybody can love me and everybody can praise me. This is a gift that I've been given. And I think that having a gift means that I have a duty to share it with the world. I think that motivation can provide a lot more meaning and a lot more safety to take the risk to expose yourself. So I think just remembering, hey, you didn't come up with your own gifts. They were given to you and you have a duty to share them with the world. And I think that can offer the courage that you need, that can offer the meaning that you need to really just step out into the light.
So our call to action for you this week is, what is the one thing that you've been waiting on to action that you haven't done? What is the one thing that you can do this week? And at least take that first step towards that goal. What is something that's been on the tablet of your heart that you have not actioned, that's been living in the back of your brain and just low-key stressing you out? What is that one thing? Figure out, how do I take that first step towards this goal? Even if it's a small micro step, a small nudge, take it. Take it this week, okay? That is our call to action for you this week. We hope that you have a wonderful week. We hope that you enjoyed the podcast, and we just genuinely can't wait to upload the next one and just see how these experiences that we have and what our guests have affected you. So, with all that being said, this is Finding Harmony.